you. Good evening, everyone. Before I officially call this meeting to order, I'd like to take a moment to formally introduce and welcome our new town manager, Chuck Stevens. Today marks day 2 of what we hope will be a long, impactful, and successful tenure here in La Plata. A little bit about Chuck. He joins us from La Plata, Colorado. Yes, you heard that right. I can't make that up. And he brings with him a wealth of experience, including several years as a county administrator and an impressive and honorable 22 years in the service. Was it?
It was just under 25 on active duty. Yeah.
Okay, more than 22, so I can cover myself there. So almost 25 years in the United States Marine Corps. He brings to our town not only strong leadership and a collaborative spirit, but also valuable expertise in water management, an area that remains critically important to our future. Chuck's experience and vision will be instrumental as we continue building a more sustainable, connected, and vibrant community. So we're truly excited for what lies ahead with him at the helm. But I also want to extend a very special thank you to you, Michelle. You served as our acting town manager until Chuck's arrival. Michelle stepped into this role during a critical transition period and took on the challenge of managing the day-to-day operations of the town with confidence and care. She maintained clear and consistent communication with the newly seated town council, helping to ensure a smooth start as we begin working together. Michelle worked much longer hours than she probably should have, navigated a demanding schedule, and never once complained. Her professionalism, steadiness, and strong leadership provided much needed continuity during a particularly busy time. And I, for one, am truly grateful for all that you have done. So thank you very much. Welcome aboard, Chuck. And now I would like to officially call this June 17th, 2025 regular town meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. Mr. Town Clerk, would you please do roll call?
Mayor James,
Here.
Councilman Gutenberg,
Here.
Councilman McCormick,
Here.
Councilman Sampson,
Here.
Councilman Johnson.
Here.
Madam Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. And now if you all would stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Council, if you have had a moment to look at the agenda, I will entertain a motion to accept the agenda.
Mayor James.
Yeah.
I make a motion to accept the meeting agenda as presented. Second. Sorry.
There we go. Any discussion? Thank you very much. All in favor? If you're in favor, please indicate by saying aye. If not, nay. Mr. Town Clerk, will you please do a roll call?
Councilman Gutenberg.
Aye.
Councilman McCormick,
Aye.
Councilman Sampson,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor James.
Aye. Thank you
The
very
motion
much.
passes.
And the next, thank you. And the next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. I am going to make a motion to amend the minutes of the regular meeting on June 10th to include the approval, to include the acknowledgement of the violation of the Open Meetings Act that was inadvertently missed on this. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilman McCormick.
So I do think it's important to discuss this. I understand it may have been a legitimate mistake. I'm not assigning blame or anything like that. Human beings, we've all made errors before in our life. This is now the second time that we've talked about this OMA violation that did not find itself on the original agenda for June 10th despite being given to the town at a minimum 4 hours before the publication of the agenda, and now it is not in the original minutes. So I appreciate the amendment, but it is twice now that this OMA has not found itself onto a document that it originally should have, and I think it's important to note.
Right, any further suggested, please say aye. If not, please say nay.
Councilman Gutenberg,
Aye.
Councilman McCormick,
Aye.
Councilman Sampson,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor James.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes.
Thank you very much. This brings us to the portion of our meeting for public comment. If you would like to speak, I ask that you state your name, whether you live in the incorporated town limits, and if you could limit your comments to 3 minutes, that would be appreciated. Mr. Town Clerk, did we have anybody sign up?
No, ma'am, there wasn't anyone who signed up.
Did anybody just change their mind and want to come up? All right, moving on. Renewal of the Melwood contract.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. What you have in front of you is a request from staff to renew on a year-to-year basis a landscaping, groundskeeping contract with Melwood Training Center. This is a one-year contract renewal. You have the details in your packet. We have a habitual relationship with Melwood. We've had them under contract for a number of years. At least 16 is, our records go back to at least 2009. That's what I was able to learn today. And so we have experienced, and staff informs me that we have consistently received excellent and prompt services as they care for our facilities over the years, and they've done so at rates that are increasingly competitive in the market. You'll see in your packet that their rate increases have never exceeded the consumer price index, and the attached proposal for your consideration this evening is an increase of only 1.2% for FY25, which is a full 1.7% under the consumer price index. So it's a very competitive rate. Staff did discuss this afternoon, and while we are recommending that we do this one-year contract renewal this year, we do also feel that it's important for transparency and competitiveness across the industry that we do go out to bid. So it will be our intent that we go out for the FY27 contract, that we go back out for a competitive bid, just to make sure that we're not being perceived as having a favorite, because we have had a contract with Melwood for many years in a row. So we thought that would be important. I think it's important that council knows that it's on our minds as well. Otherwise, I think it's a straightforward contract. You have the details in your packet, and I'm happy to try and answer any questions that council might have.
Any questions?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thanks, Mr. Stevens. Question. So I noticed the town hall facility was under bid for landscaping and is closed out. Do we have a status on if that will be coming before the council anytime soon? Or Ms. Minor?
Yeah, I might have to ask Ms. Minor to help me on this one. Was I told this afternoon that we didn't receive any competitive bids on that one? Right.
Okay.
So that did go out to bid for this facility, but we did not receive any responsive proposals.
Second question, is there any reason why town hall is separated from the other facilities with Melwood?
Because the landscaper that we had doing the town hall, they did more than just cut the grass. They mulched, they weeded,
Understood.
they did. Melwood's only pretty much grass cutting and trimming.
Understood. Thank you.
Looking for a consensus to move this to legislation. Mr. Town Clerk, will you please take a roll call if you are in favor of moving it to legislation? Please indicate by saying yay or yes or no if you're not.
Councilman Gutenberg,
Yay.
Councilman McCormick,
Yes.
Councilman Sampson,
Yes.
Councilman Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor James.
Yes, as well. Thank you
All right.
very much. All right, next one on our agenda is our I'm trying to work this new computer. Wastewater treatment plant, this, vehicles.
All right, council. Again, this is a request from staff, this time from our wastewater treatment plant superintendent Kirk Parks, to replace two vehicles. The two vehicles in question have reached their end of life. I can give you details about mileage and whatnot, but they're at end of life. And we have in the budget, so the requested that is being requested from you, to the amount of money that's being requested from you today is in our budget, and that's important. There's about 2 weeks left on the 2025 budget. That's why you're hearing this request tonight instead of on your regularly scheduled meeting on July 29th. So what's the budgeted line item is for $90,000, and the purchase request for the two vehicles that you see in your packet total just under $87,000, so it's within the budget. We did go out and review multiple quotes, and we did arrive on these as the vehicles that would meet the needs of the town and would do so as economically as we could. So staff is requesting that council approve this and let us go forth and spend the money that's in the budget and purchase these vehicles. And again, I'm happy to try and answer any questions that I can for you.
Yes, Madam Mayor. In looking at this, I think this is a really good example of something we can discuss to help educate us on how the budget processing goes, and in particular with the vehicle fund that we have. We have this vehicle reserve fund, right? And we talked about this as we were talking about the FY26 budget, and I know the Finance Committee also discussed, rules both in the past and at the most recent Finance Committee meeting, rules around how we process things through these reserve funds. So I see these are in the SIP, and that's great. And so what I wanted to sort of walk through, if we could, just as an overview, is so when we take these vehicles now and we procure them and we're going to use funds from the reserve fund, I would like to know, when the reserve fund is funded, are those costs for these trucks then in the buildup for the service costs in the enterprise fund for sewer, right? And the reason why I ask that too is there's also two vehicles that we're replacing, but we're going to keep them. So that's a little different than what we would normally do. And there's sort of a rollback or a roll off of the total fleet that happens, but we're going to retain those, and there's still an operational cost. And I think there's appropriateness here, but I think it would be a good discussion for us to have so we understand how that works in service costs.
Understood.
Okay.
All right. Counselor, I'll take the second part of your question and I'll answer that first.
Mhm.
And then I might ask Karina to come up and address the first part, because you did mention that these are enterprise funds. So you and I had a conversation earlier today that I think was more global and more applicable to general fund, and enterprise fund is a little bit different. So I'm going to
Okay.
ask Karina to come up at that point.
Sure.
As to the term I use is roll down vehicles, and I'm sure the town of La Plata has another term for it. So, but you have a vehicle and it does reach end of life, but maybe it's still working. And so is there a way that we can continue to use that vehicle and put it to the public benefit, since we already own it? And yes, the town will do that and has done that historically. In this case, though, I have found out that both of the vehicles that we want to replace are no longer operational. And so there won't be any opportunity to roll these down and apply them in other uses for other departments. So what we will likely do with these is put them out to bid for auction and try to recoup as much money as we can for them. So, and that's our normal practice. Okay. So
Okay.
did that answer the second part of your question?
It really does. So the reason why I asked that is if we would retain them, there's still some operational cost, and we've grown the size of the fleet. So that's not happening here.
That's not
So
gonna happen.
so that nuance part of it doesn't really matter. So the other part would be just us. In fact, that may not even be as significant a question as well. But I guess the question then is just more general. In the vehicle fund, when we're putting reserve funds there, in there, as we do that, as the budget lines, do those roll up, those individual deposits of say it's $30,000 a year from a service, just making up a number, that is rolled up into the total cost of the sewer fund service. So if we see capital improvement plan projects for vehicle replacements, that would be part of the total build for the annual.
Yeah, and this is where I'm going to
model,
get
okay.
the town treasurer to come forward if I
Okay.
could. Thanks, Karina. Make sure you grab a microphone if you can, please.
I just want to clarify one thing.
Sure.
This budget was actually not, these vehicles weren't budgeted from the vehicle reserve. They were actually budgeted from the fund balance within the sewer fund. So there's no replenishment or anything with that. And as far as the reserves, that's something the finance committee is going to start researching to develop how we're going to replace them and what's common best practice to do that. But these specific ones, they are not. So as far as the vehicle, it was budgeted, the cash to pay for these are coming from the fund balance. But on the expense side, because these are enterprise funds, they actually are expense a depreciation, and we will depreciate them over the life of the vehicle. And that would be part of the operating expense budget.
Okay, so those aren't coming out of the vehicle reserve fund.
Correct.
Is there when I'm looking at these in the SIP, right? That plan, they don't have a project number. Is that relevant to how that
No.
works or no?
So-
Okay.
So
Okay.
to explain on the project numbers, I put project numbers in there when we are tracking larger projects that are going to have multiple vendors, different pieces. It's not like one invoice, like these vehicles are one invoice. We're going to know what they are. There may be a few here and there for like wraps or something like that, but nothing that we're going to have to really track and be able to then isolate to create the asset to make sure we depreciate over the life.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And I think, I look forward to the broader conversation on these, so I won't belabor it here. But the fact that they're in the capital improvement plan, I think is good. And then, I think our goal is to get these kinds of things into the into the way we fold things in the reserve funds is good. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Any other questions?
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. Mr. Stevens or Ms. Minor, question. So since we talked about vehicles being purchased before the end of the fiscal year, what happens when a vehicle is not purchased in a fiscal year? Does that money roll over? Is it still available, or is it pretty much lost?
I'm going to go out on a limb here, and Karina, if I get this wrong, please just jump right up. Okay. Using the words like roll over when we talk about budgets and government budgets, that's not a good term to use, because every year we have to have a new budget. So money doesn't roll over from year to year. So typically, and I'm going to look over here, if we have funds in the budget that are not expended, they're just not expended. And then if it's the desire of council to, in the subsequent year, to go out and repurchase that, they need to rebudget that. Because as you'll learn year to year, the budget's going to change, priorities are going to change. And let's just use these vehicles and $90,000 as an example. If we don't buy them, that's $90,000 that wasn't spent. And then when we go through the process of developing the budget for next year, that $90,000 could be really critical to a different project. And you may not want to fund to get 2 more vehicles. You may want to use that money in some other way. So the budget, it's important to know that every year it's a new day. It's a new budget. And so money doesn't roll over necessarily.
Okay, so the answer was no. So there's a few vehicles in here that I think probably may not have been purchased. One of them being the town manager vehicle replacement. So that's just going to July 1 or whatever the fiscal year start is scrapped. Okay.
Very much. So what I'm looking from council is for a consensus to move this forward. Mr. Town Clerk, will you please ask the question whether it's moving forward? If it's a yes, please say yes. If it's a no, please indicate by saying no.
Councilman Gutenberg,
Yes.
Councilman McCormick,
Yes.
Councilman Sampson,
Yes.
Councilman Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor James.
Thank you. So that brings us to our goal setting retreat priorities that we are sitting here rolling up our sleeves and talking about what the council has as priorities and where we're going for the future.
So council, if I can, I think I'll start this conversation, but then I think really this is an opportunity for council to talk amongst yourselves. So I probably shouldn't have a large speaking role here, but I did want to offer, first of all, I want to thank council for the work that you've done to put together, and you have in your packet, but the list of tasks that you've provided to me and the staff that you're desirous of having accomplished at some point. I don't know that we've established a time frame yet. But this is great. I mean, these are very clear. I think as you look through them, you can find alignment in a number of these tasks and goals and try to determine the vision that council has for the town of La Plata and the community at large. What I would like to recommend and maybe have council consider and discuss this evening, though, is given the fact that 4 of the council members are new to their positions and the town manager is new to his position, I think that there would be great benefit in having within the next 2 months or so, if we can get it on the calendar, but a retreat to go over and find alignment in your priorities. What you have in your packet here, these are all great. Some of these I would consider tactical tasks. Like these are things that we just need to get done. And, and I could go through and highlight some of those. Some of the topics are far more visionary and strategic, and are probably linked. Things like town council collective vision. There's also community engagement strategy. Then there's community survey and goal setting. And then there's create a town identity. And when you look at those holistically, take a step back and open the aperture, it's like, okay, there's a vision here. I don't know what it is reading this page, but I would love to have a facilitated retreat where we could all get together with town staff, if that's the desire of council, the department heads, or not, and really get behind what is the vision of this council. You're at the very leading edge of your 4-year term. The time is going to fly by, and I think you know that. You're already 6 weeks into your term, something like 5 or 6 weeks, and it's going to fly by. But I think it would be time well spent and invested if we could get together for a day. And I know a day is a lot to ask. I do, and I respect that. But to get together for a day at some point in the next 2 months and really hash this out and come up with a vision that then staff could take and translate into an actionable plan. There's also on here, update a dashboard for the comprehensive and strategic plans. So it's clear that council is interested in metrics and measurements and performance. And so I would like a little more granularity than what's on this page so that we could go back and do that for you and then find a way to track that, not only for council, but for our constituents, and build this dashboard and put it out on our website and make it accessible so that people can see it. And all of this has to tie into your budget. As you're all aware, of all the policy documents that any elected body is ever going to do, your budget is the one that speaks the loudest. Okay. Before I even applied for this position, the first document I looked at was your budget, not only because I wanted to check for your financial and fiscal health, but I wanted to see where your priorities were, because your budget's going to tell you where your community priorities are. What are you investing in? What are you not investing in? What changed year over year, right? So I think it would be really important that if we could schedule it and get it done, do it well in advance of the budget cycle. So again, I know that you're probably aware of this. So there's basically two different times of year when you work in the treasurer's office or the finance department. You're either building the budget or you're working on the audit, right? So the budget is going to get wrapped up here. We're going to have a new budget in 2 weeks, which means that Karina and her team are probably working on the audit, right? We haven't even talked about it, but I guarantee that's what she's doing. Okay. And there's deadlines for that. So if we could have this conversation before we start the next budget cycle where we start the planning, it would be great to have that. So that's what I wanted to offer for council to chew on and maybe discuss this evening.
Thank you very much. And I love the idea of a retreat because that we can all talk about what we are passionate about and put it more in terms of moving forward. We have a lot of silos right here. And as you pointed out, we have several that go together. And it's would be nice to be able to speak about what we collectively see as moving this town forward to strengthen it. We'll open up the dialogue. I'm going to start with you, Mr. Quiet One. Do you have anything that you would like to say first of all about this as we start talking about our priorities and budgets? And would you be amenable to having a retreat?
The answer is yes. I think that's an excellent idea. I think doing it way before the budget cycle is appropriate. I agree with his statement. I think the budget does reflect the town's values. I think it is the lifeblood of the town as far as getting things done. It also, just for my own personal self-interest, it's right in line with what I care about is the budget costs and all that. So I don't know if this is the appropriate time to go into anything specific, but I'll wait if it's not. Let everybody else.
Let's get everybody's thought first. We'll go piecemeal, but we'll see if everyone is on board with doing a retreat, and then we'll go into that. Thank you very much. Councilman Gutenberg, your thoughts?
Yes, yeah, very much in favor of doing a retreat. I think, yeah, I actually look forward to being able to sort of iron through these and, understand what the intent of the various members of the council are, so that we can find out where our alignment are, where we need to, sort of understand each other a little better. So yeah, yeah, I think, an entire day is probably the appropriate amount of time too. I really do. Trying to do it in 2 hours in this room goes by really fast. So I think it is going to take a little time. So yeah, thank you.
Councilman McCormick?
Yeah, Mr. Stevens, thank you for the suggestion. I'm always in favor of getting the council together, especially on the open record, which it sounds like this retreat would be, something that's televised to the folks. Treated almost like a special meeting, very similar to the retreat we had when we first got elected. So I do appreciate that suggestion. I will caveat, though, there is a process to already get this stuff on the agenda that several of us have tried to do. I feel like it's getting a little tough to talk about these things in public, specifically because figuring out how to navigate getting things onto the agenda has been one of the most difficult things in the first, I would say, 35 to 40 days for me, and just by observation, probably for the rest of the council as well. So I would argue that 2 months from today is probably too late. I think we need to have this meeting much, much sooner. To your point, 4 years goes quickly. Yes, budget building is obviously the thing that will be the legacy of this council, and every council has come before us and every council that will come after us. But I do think if we're talking strictly about the things on here, which are visions and goals and priorities for this council and these councilmen and the mayor, we need to have this discussion a lot earlier than 60 days from now.
Councilman Johnson?
Yes, thanks, Mayor James. I am supportive of a retreat, and I'll reserve the rest of my comments when they're appropriate.
Okay, so, Mr. Stevens, we've got all 5 of us want to retreat, and I suspect the next one would be to have a date. So that would probably be a poll to see when people are ready, because I know it's vacation time and all of that time, so that would be great. So talking about tonight, we've talked about our priorities. Where do you see, otherwise it's a free-for-all? I mean, we have our priorities in no specific order except for high. This is where apparently looking at the vision for each of us, the missions or the priorities of each of us, they were compiled, and this is what rose to the high, medium, and long. Are we looking at, I mean, okay, I'm going to go with tourism zone ordinance. That's already been written, but it needs to be hashed out, I think, by this council. is that the will of the council? Is that what we're looking at, even though it's high on there? Or how do you see this? Because I could see us being here for hours.
I suppose that is an option. I hope it's not the one that we choose. Mayor, really, this list, like I said, I don't want the council to have to go through here and try to explain tonight, what the intent was behind this or what the importance is. When I saw this, that's why I made the recommendation that I did. I think we need to, I think this is a conversation that will take some time, because I think to really come up with an actionable plan that's achievable for the staff to execute within a given time frame. Because that is the other thing that's missing here is what is the time horizon on some of these things. We are going to have to talk about them and what was intended behind some of these words. I think some of these are easily achievable, and frankly, we could probably, if I fully understand what's here, some of these could be accomplished before we even get to the date of the retreat. But some of these, anything to do with water, I think I've said this now to a couple of you in one-on-ones. When you're talking about water, there's calendar dates in years, and then there's water dates in years, and they're measured very, very differently. I mean, sometimes water can take decades. You measure in decades, not in years. So when I see things in here that talk about water, I think it's important that we understand what it is we're trying to achieve, and then what is the time horizon. So that's going to require a discussion. I don't know that tonight's the right time to have that. I think the fact that council has gone through and done this science project to identify for each of yourselves what's important to you, what are you hearing from your constituents, and getting it out on paper and getting it captured. I think that was a great first step, and I'm very thankful that you did that, and that I have this on day 2.
If I may, Madam Mayor.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, so first, thank you, Mr. Stevens. I'll recommend, I think the best way to kind of tackle this is, one, if you have specific questions as we go through it overall. Hey, I know the councilman from Ward 1 wrote this vision. Councilman Gutenberg, what'd you mean by this? Everybody gets 10 minutes according to the rules of procedure to discuss. That gives us an hour to have this conversation. I disagree. I think this is the time to have it. We have residents asking for this. I've gotten emails, phone calls, messages. I think it's important to go through the high levels that each councilman and the mayor took time to prepare, and we could just have a quick 10-minute discussion per person in accordance with the rules of procedure. So that's my recommendation for today and how we can move forward. So with that, I'll make a motion. Every councilman gets an opportunity to include the mayor to speak with 10 minutes with Mr. Stevens on the items here. They can only be the items here in the agenda packet to make sure we have further clarity moving forward. I will yield to Councilman Gutenberg first, and then I'll reintroduce it if needed. Yep. Fair enough. I just want to make sure it's out there, that the suggestion's out there. Yep. Consensus, or whatever the correct term is.
Okay. Yeah. So thank you. What I wanted to say is, I think probably in line with what you were asking, Councilman McCormick. But when we talked about this on the agenda for tonight, I was interested very much to hear how we were going to tackle this. And I think that the budget retreat idea is excellent, because it really gets to the scope of what that really is. What I made an assumption, and I kind of want to check that with you, which is that in putting this together, my interpretation of what we were going to do was kind of talk about how we would prioritize things for stacking things for the agendas, the upcoming agendas. Not so much that what we were providing was like a comprehensive list of town or our priorities for the town, and that would be consolidated in a way, because I do assume that's going to take something much more time consuming. So my question, I think, for you and for the mayor is in the output tonight of what we would do with this list. Is it possible for you, sir, Mr. Stevens, to potentially tell us if there are items on these priority lists that could be added to upcoming agendas that don't require so much strategic thought? There may be the tactical things. Are there things that the town staff maybe thinks here that could be prioritized just from a ease of tactically doing them. And then we can, address the rest of it through the budget retreat process is my question.
Yeah, Counselor, I think I could do some. I would feel comfortable looking at this list and saying, yes, I think this is something that's achievable. That's a tactical issue like the tourism zone ordinance, as the mayor already mentioned. I saw the meeting in December. I mean, that thing, from my understanding, is very close to the finish line and probably wouldn't be too hard to get across. And Michelle, just please punch me in the arm or something if I'm speaking out of turn, because you've got the historical knowledge, okay? But as I go through it, I think the LEOP study evaluation, I think that one is probably already underway and so could be done. We could get that on an agenda. Correct. I'm not sure what the Main Street Maryland application is, if it's simply an application and putting together a packet that may or may not be, but I'm not even familiar with what that is, so.
And it may not even, well, I guess it does need to go on an agenda since we have been an affiliate. I guess it's an update
Update.
on that, on the new. So, Mr. Stevens, if we go through and I understand, Councilman McCormick, how you're saying 10 minutes. I don't want to talk 10 minutes. That's a first. And I probably will never say that again. I want to be able to have a conversation where it says, okay, fund elimination of stormwater management, maintenance ticket backlog. Okay, that's a priority of someone. What did you mean by that? That's what I see doing, but please don't filibuster on 10 minutes for each one. We'd be here forever, I think. But I'd like to know where we're coming from on that. If it was your priority that is in there or someone or similar to that, discuss it and let us hear your vision.
Okay, so we're just going item by item, starting at the top, moving to the bottom. Okay, so just point of order real quick, Madam Mayor, you made the comment that motions are only for legislative things. That's not correct. So I will formally make a motion to discuss this agenda from the top to the bottom in the way that you said in a dialogue. So I make that motion that's how the discussion goes tonight.
A second for discussion, just to make a point. I think we're already doing that.
Yeah, what I don't want to happen is somebody decides to, because they don't like the question or how it's going, or we skip over an item, that doesn't happen. I want to make sure that we are following some sort of rule as we move forward with this discussion with Mr. Stevens tonight. What I'm afraid is that it's going to turn into a free-for-all. To Madam Mayor's point, we don't want a 10-minute filibuster per topic or whatever.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, if I may, I'm not going to speak for the whole council, but I think we're all going to speak for what's important for us. And if you take 2 minutes or your 10 minutes, I mean, only reason why, if we want to do the motion formally, we're doing it anyway. But my point is, it's already being done. I would assume the will of the council, if we were to start skipping across, would just take place. But I will support your motion, but I think it's already being done.
I think it's important to do it procedurally.
I just, my observation would be is, if I would hope that decorum could be used, that we could navigate it that way. I do not want to have to sit here with stopwatches on each other as we talk. I think that is not a way that we should exist as a group. And what I would recommend is that we proceed without a motion and we just, again, through courtesy and decorum, manage our conversations with each other, would be my recommendation.
Thank you. And my comment is, this is why we're here. We're just here to discuss the priorities. That's what was put on the agenda. And I do not need a formal motion to do something that we have on the agenda and priorities in chart form. So that's just my discussion on that. So we have a motion on the floor with a second. If you're in favor of the motion, please say aye. If not, nay. It does not mean that if it does not pass, that we are not discussing it. It's just procedural. So, Mr. Town Clerk, could you please do a roll call?
Councilman Gutenberg,
No.
Councilman McCormick,
Aye.
Councilman Sampson,
No.
Councilman Johnson,
No.
Mayor James.
No. So with that said, we're just going to have a conversation here. And that's what it is for a discussion. So the first one on the list is the fund elimination of stormwater maintenance ticket backlog. If this was your priority, if you could please just
Sure.
talk a little bit about it.
Sure. So during the budget discussions for fiscal year 2026, what I believe we discovered is that there is a ticket backlog that I do not see a direct correlation to a funding line. And so I believe that basically makes this an unfunded requirement the way I look at it. And so what I thought this needed, it's been brought up by many residents. We can see the barrels around town, and those are basically unfinished tickets for the stormwater management. And so I really thought it was important that we get a scope and an estimate in dollars of what it would take to work that off, and then work a plan so that we can get that done. The concern being, if it's not in the budget, if that is the case, that those wouldn't get done unless we do something like this.
And feel free to chime in at any time. And for this, is this something, and Karina, you might know as well, is this something that falls under the MS4? Is there any type of, may not say backlog, stormwater maintenance backlog, but is it in the budget that we might not know it's the line item?
So it is in the budget, but it's budgeted at 250,000. And
Okay.
the issue, we budget this, but it doesn't get done. So I think it's more of how we're managing it and saying, is there money there? Because we keep budgeting for that, but it doesn't get done.
Okay.
And it's not MS4.
What is it? Oh, it's not, doesn't fall under it. Okay, well, you're still here. Can you make a recommendation on how, or if that's more appropriate for Mr. Stevens, on if the money is there, when it came in for the request, does it not require some type of way to execute?
I don't dictate how department use. They ask, say, they need this to complete whatever they're doing. This year, we've asked for a listing and we got a listing and then we put contingency in. But I don't sit there and say, okay, well, we have this money. What were you planning to do?
Yeah.
It's there. They need to manage it. And this is something I've talked with departments over and over. You've got a budget. You need to review your budget monthly. You need to manage it. You need to make sure that you are doing what you're supposed to be doing, or what you have. Plans change. But as far as managing, that's really on the departments.
So
to do.
the concern during the budget discussions, I think, was so while there's $250,000 in the budget for that, if there's 200 tickets, that's maybe $2,000 a job, right? So it feels like it's probably not scoped right, and we don't have a good, and when we talked about it, right, with the department head, we don't have the estimates on that because you understand.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really what it is. It's probably about getting an execution plan then.
It's more of the department to figure out how to manage it. As far as the budget side, we budget for what they ask. If they need to amend or readjust how they're doing it, it's evaluation on their end to figure out what they need. And again, we're talking about stormwater that has its own funding source. It's not competing with other departments for this funding. It has its own funding source.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Stevens, is this something that staff would now say, okay, the budget is there, now prioritize? This isn't the town council. We've identified the problem or the concern, and we've gotten somewhat of an answer here. Now, does that go straight to operations?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that would be something that we have now
Yep.
put on.
Yeah, and I know that I was intentionally brief on my response because I think the short answer is yes. I mean, if the money's in the budget and we know what the problem is, then it just comes down to figuring out how we implement and how we execute, as Counselor Kuhnberg said. So we've just got to come up with the execution plan. I don't know today on day 2 whether or not it's a staffing issue down in Public Works. I don't believe that it is. Is this something that we could contract out? Could we surge a contractor force to come in and start knocking these things out? I don't know those answers, but I'm certain that if the money's in the budget and we know the problem, then it comes down to an implementation and execution plan.
Okay. Yep.
Oh, any other comments on this one? Okay, thank you. Standardized town communication?
Yeah, so this one, an example of the way the town has communicated the change to the trash fee service is a great example of this. And so the concern there is just that that kind of communication becomes standard practice, so that residents get used to the fact that there is one place they can go to get the definitive answer on matters of public safety, changing in fees, or just general town service information, right? And that way we don't have to rely on, just individual attention to it and things like that. It should just be, standard service organization kind of stuff. Yep.
Is there any way that you would suggest, and I know this is going to be operations as well, but any way that you can suggest to get the public more involved with this? For them to know?
Yeah.
So many different avenues, you're right.
Sure. And, I was fortunate. I got to have my meeting with one-on-one with Mr. Stevens today, and we did talk about this a little bit, right? And so I think one of the things that not to speak for you, sir, but one of the things that we discussed is that there's, a need to really kind of survey and determine what communication methods or channels are residents really using, right? And so, we know there is social media, but when you talk to people, there's also people who really rely heavily on the newsletter or other, sources. And there are other areas where there are gaps in the community. We don't have kind of a robust local press the way you would, back a few years ago even. So those are things that probably need to be ironed out related to that too.
Operations as well for getting that open. Thank you for identifying that.
Yeah, no, I do not have any comments. Thank you.
Any other comments on this one?
Thanks, Mayor James. I would just say, I think it's not a retreat item. It's operations, but as the town move forward, how do we get in the habit of, I've been using this word for a while, storytelling, like what makes people want to be engaged with the town. And maybe we don't know that yet, to your point. We don't know what they're using, but if we just get in the habit of getting in front of communication, I think the trash can policy, 2 weeks out before the budget take effect was, it was the design was appealing. It made me click on it and look. So I think just interacting with them at a different level on social media will be a good start. I will say that last post was very interactive, and I think it caught a lot of attention. I saw a lot of shares. So.
How do you get your news? How do you get your information? And that is, they'll tell you, our residents will tell you that social media is not the way I get it. I get it through the newspaper, the newsletter, website. But I think that I know that I'm going to do that. If you all want to do that too, that would be great. We maybe compare notes and say social media, but of course we're getting social media. So I don't know. It may be a little confused. Tourism zone.
Madam Mayor, sorry.
Go ahead.
Just an outside observation that some folks, specifically in Ward 2, have made about standardizing town communications. I know we don't have an HOA board or like a committee of HOA members that come to town hall or anything like that. But a lot of folks have stated that they get good communication through their HOA right now. And that may be a lever that we can pull, having a representative from each, I'm assuming just in Ward 2 alone, there's 3 or 4. I assume there's probably, anywhere from 12 to 15 in the town. That might be an effective way for us to leverage 15 folks to get the message out to 3,000 people.
Yeah. Counselor, that's exactly right. It's a very effective technique, and that's one that I've seen used to great success in the past.
And if they don't come to us, we come to them. And that is one of those ones that as representatives of the town, especially wards, that's what maybe that we put that in our repertoire to go visit our HOAs. Tourism zone, that is one that I put on there. One of the things that I have heard for several years is that there's nothing to do in La Plata. And how do we attract people? How do we attract businesses here? Tourism zone, we became a tourism zone state last year. And that is an enabling legislation where we can attract businesses by giving them incentives. It could be, if they're paying property taxes right now, I'm going to make up numbers, $10,000 a year for property tax on an unimproved piece of land. And they put something on and it's 60,000. For 5 years, we might be able to offer them paying 10,000 instead of the 60,000. So that's $50,000 that they are saving, they can reinvest into their business. And that is something that I would like to have formally adopted, to have the tax incentives, signage, marketing, anything we can do to help our businesses, either in new, incoming, or renovating. And when I say incoming, taking over some business that is already here, or really beefing up their business. And there are certain criteria. They have to have X amount of employees that they have. They have to bring in so much money based on their business and all that. So it is a really easy but detailed ordinance that I would like to see, because I hear it from the businesses that, what are you doing for us? You're building homes, but what are you doing for us? So that is something that I've always been passionate about. I've set my own personal goal for December of 2025. I did SMART goals just because that's what I teach. So it's the professor in me. And I would love to see that incentive program up and running by spring of next year. Any questions on the tourism zone?
I do, if you don't
Go
mind.
ahead. Sure.
So this one's is interesting to me. I like you. I went and watched the previous council's deliberation on this, and noticed where they kind of got the feedback. I think that day was that there weren't those specifics that you were talking about. So I was looking into it a little bit, and the first thing I was doing is like, okay, so who else in Maryland has done this, right? Well, nobody has, because this was just done by the state. But I got reading about it a little bit, and the Maryland law is actually based on Virginia's law. So you go look at Virginia, though, and you look at some small municipalities, and they've got great examples of different incentives that they've done. And so my suggestion might be that we look at a couple of those Virginia laws or codes, and could staff evaluate some mix of what those incentives would be. I look at them and then I go, okay, well, I see what they are, but how much does that really cost over the course of 3 or 5 years? And so we could look at that, I think, pretty quickly in a couple of just scenarios and go, here's 3 different ways we could do that in La Plata. And I don't, are we able to have engage with some businesses on maybe them evaluating it with us? Like, what would incentivize them?
You're spot on.
Okay.
We did take this from Virginia. And a fun fact about this, the way that Maryland became the tourism zone state is because it started here in La Plata. It was Director Phipps and myself that put in legislation for the Maryland Municipal League, and they championed it and pushed it through with all the support from the Senate and the House, went up to the governor in a year, and it was signed. And we based it. And when I went to testify there, I said, hey, if Virginia has it, we should be able to have it. And that's where we got that. So that we have a ton of information on that. And that's where we are pulling from different municipalities that are the same size as ours, that are landlocked. That, we don't have offer what Leonardtown does with the water and things like that. So that we do have that, and that I will make sure that we put more of those comparisons in.
Okay.
That's a great point. Anyone else on the tourism zone?
No, thanks.
Madam Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilman McCormick.
So I think this identifies a really big symptom in the town. I'm a big person that goes after root causes. So very similar to the standardizing town communication portion, I understand that our business league in La Plata is disbanded. There's no local group. What is the mechanism that we give these local business members to communicate with you, Mr. Stevens, the town, and the council right now? Do we have a game plan for that? Again, I think the tourism zone probably identifies a lot of what the business owners want and need. We just need to give them an avenue to actually bring that ask up to us, if that makes sense. So I don't know if this identifies that necessarily, but similar to Councilman Gutenberg, I also watched a video from last December and saw a lot of those questions come up. I just want to make sure they don't come up again, if that makes sense. Great.
Small businesses, they partner with them. And they're at the mixers, and that's where we're getting information from as well.
Thank you.
All right. The DCC. Do you have that on yours? Because I certainly do. All right, so Dorchester Community Center. This has been, we did get our last, we're still missing one funding. Is that true? One. So we have been able to save or get back, claw back, or whatever you want to say, the money that was originally awarded to us in a grant. I did have a conversation right after our meeting, happened to be at Rotary Club, and the Boys and Girls Club was there. They are very interested in coming in, very interested. And it just happened that all the chips fell in the right place, did not know that they were going to be there. This is a conversation that we do need to have. And as Councilman Johnson, as you said, it's either move it forward or don't. And while I would hate to give back $1.25 million, if we're not going to do anything with that, somebody else can use that. But I think that we get serious with this, and this should be one of our top priorities, either move it forward or kill it, in my opinion. We've got the land. When I spoke with Joy, she has money. And she immediately spoke with Senator Ellis, who I spoke with as well at the ribbon cutting for 7-Eleven, and they are very interested in finding additional funding. We have the 5 acres, and that was so attractive to the Boys and Girls Club. We've got plans. We've got not plans, because plans would be that we have concept that was done from public interaction. We took it was over a year or so, and we got input from the public on what they want to see, what is going to benefit them. So we've got that groundwork done, but to Councilman Johnson's point, move it forward or move on. And that's where I think this should rise to the top and see where we're going to go from this, since we have worked hard to get that money back, either use it or not. Who else has something to say about DCC?
Mayor James.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I would agree. It's either, move on. And I think the intent of why DCC came about is super important. And it don't need to be scrapped. So I speak for myself. And I think the comments I made during the budget hearing was, we have the money, great, but who's going to do operations? And it sounds like there might be a concept of a plan. So I fully support the project. And would love to see it moving forward. And I hope we can get the Boys and Girls Club or someone similar to champion behind it and partner along the way.
Would this fall under Mr. Stevens, the council? Does the Boys and Girls Club have to present to us? What's the next step look like, I guess, is the question. I think everybody said a lot of great things that, yeah, not to speak for the council, but I agree with. I'm assuming everybody else kind of has a similar sentiment. What's the next step?
I would think that the Boys and Girls Club would be more definitely operations on council, on the town manager's part with land lease and all of that, much like we did with the library. It doesn't, but for us as a priority, we have to feel good that it's going to be a good match and make sure that we are doing the will of our residents. So am I off on that one?
You are not off.
Okay.
And then talking about that time bound, just gut reaction, Madam Mayor. Did you write this one or no? Sorry. Okay. What's your gut reaction for time on this one? Like, okay. Great.
Would we also need to like start moving out now on hiring a project manager that sort of rolls into that? Is that, I feel like that's always been part of the discussion with this, right?
We did authorize Jamie to be our project manager, correct, for many of the towns.
on the street projects, but there has not been any discussion who's the project manager on the Dorchester Community Center.
Okay, so that is that we would have to, I think that we have to first find that they really are serious about that.
Yeah.
And then the next one would be immediately doing a project manager and then handing
And I'm,
it to us.
and I'm not saying it has to be a full-time person, but my perception of this, right, has been that this has been a thing we've been trying to do as a town for a long time, and I'd like to really see us get traction on it then, right? Yeah, okay.
Yes, I'm a big supporter of the Dorchester Community Center. However, I just want to bring up a point, which I'm assuming is obvious, but just bring it up anyway. That one of the things that I see, as we go through these, I'll bring it up later because it hits one of my points, is that I like the idea, I like the project, but now when you start talking 3, 5, 7, 8 years, what I'm very concerned about is the continuing funding of this. And what I don't hear is, what is the funding, and I'm using the term in a general sense, package for this? In other words, we have a grant. We have this, are the Boys Club paying taxes on this and they're bearing all the costs once that grant money runs out? Are we paying for some of this? Is it going to hit the town residents? So I just want to caution that, and like I said, I'll go into this later as we go down the list, but one of the things is projecting out future costs. And so I would like to see, specifically for this, I'm going to stay on this, that the town treasurer or whoever's doing the budget forecasting is deeply involved hand in hand.
Yeah.
Because that's a missing piece that I think gets us in trouble a lot of times. And that's it.
Just a comment on that. Yeah, the town of Indian Head is doing a very similar thing with the Boys and Girls Club, and perhaps we could speed up our learning process by having a conversation with some of the town staff over there on how they've solved that part of the budget forecasting piece of this. Maybe just a thought.
That's a great idea. And Joy is down there and
She's running that one as well.
She
Perfect.
runs 7 of them through the Tri-County
Right.
area. So
Maybe she could even make the introductions for us.
yes.
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
That would be
Yeah.
great, but very smart on that.
Okay.
All right, Town Council Collective Vision. So I'm just going to cross this out and write Chuck, because what I wrote is by October 2025, facilitate a council retreat to define a collective vision and adopt a 2-year set of council priorities with quarterly public updates as progress. And you didn't even see that. You see, and you put that up there. And October is, again, I am looking, when I was doing this, thought that October would be a good, I think that it should be sooner, most definitely. But we've already discussed that. I think that should be sooner than later on that one. Any comments on that one?
Yeah, Madam Mayor. I think we can kind of pick a week or a date. We got the 6 main players that have to be there. Obviously, Mr. Stevens, you can invite whatever staff member you think. But I don't see why we would move on with this without, again, getting a firmer T here with the 5 folks that know their schedules. So I'd be absolutely amendable to discussing kind of what that time frame looks like.
Council? You've been, just out of curiosity.
So I've been married, and this is a great question, since October 14th of 2023.
My schedule is my husband's schedule, so I cannot state what my schedule is without checking with the big man at home. And I don't know if you guys are like that, that you have to check with your significant others, but great idea on that. I know that I could not commit because there are vacations and stuff that we are planning on that in the next few weeks. So I would like an opportunity to speak with my husband and find out which days he's not available to watch the dog. We got the puppy.
Mayor James, Councilman McCormick, are we thinking like August, September timeframe? Is that appropriate?
Yes, I would think, because I think that July is pretty much
No
done
go for
with
me.
the vacations and stuff, but August, the kids are back in school. If you have kids in school, that might be an easier time on that, and things are settling down. But maybe that we could have a poll sent out or something within give a few dates that works.
Mayor, what I was, if I may,
Absolutely.
hearing the sense of urgency from council on this, I think what we can commit to tonight is to get a poll out before end of week. Sounds like we don't want to target July, even though we want it sooner rather than later. So we'll look early August. I'm not sure when the school starts here, but that notwithstanding, we'll get a poll out by Friday with dates in the first and second weeks of August. Is that acceptable?
Yes, for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Does that satisfy you, Councilman McCormick?
Yes, I'm a firm believer. Ask big and upfront and then negotiate somewhere in the middle. So if we're getting it by Friday for a poll, I'm very happy with that.
On that. Since 1960, they have been talking about sidewalks on Washington Avenue. We have made some traction in the past 8 years with the county. They have had conversations with that. It's not a dead deal. It doesn't need a defibrillator, but it is working together to, especially with the library coming in. I think you'll see more collaboration to make it walkable, because once the library comes in, you're going to have kids that are going to be walking on Washington Avenue. So although I find this a high priority, I think that ongoing conversations between staff and county would be warranted. And then when it does come to us, it would be more of a funding request, I think. And if they need to come in front of council to talk about it, that's a good thing as well, but I had to put it on that because I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful the next 4 years we'll get sidewalks. They're patchwork, and just for the knowledge of many that may not know, there is no right of way. So the property line goes right up to the asphalt. So that has been the problem, not the fact of laying down sidewalk on a street we do not own. It's a county road. So that's where our problem gets a little sticky. Any discussion on that? All right. Senior service needs. So this was something that I have heard for years, and I get it. And with our seniors, we have heard, and I think Councilman Sampson, you talked about this as well, about utilities. I would like to explore, not commit, but explore some type of initiative to expand services for accessibility and offering financial support. I know that many municipalities, I don't know in Maryland, I know in Virginia, do have senior reduced rates. I know that's probably driving you crazy, Karina, and I'm sorry, I'm not even going to look at you. But just explore something about that to see if it's possible. If it is possible, great. If it's not, some of the things is, I was talking about the concerns that I hear is transportation, affordability, and mobility. Affordability, well, we can't buy them a house, buy people that need a house, but maybe we can look at our utilities. If they qualify. Now, they have to have certain qualifications at that. One of the things that I talked about is install at least 3 senior-friendly infrastructure improvements downtown. Like, I had someone call me up that they were very tired and they couldn't find a bench. This was a couple of years ago. Now they have the park out here, but things like that, benches, ADA curbs and ramps, crosswalk signal timers like we just had, accessible parking. Those might be smart goals. Explore and pilot a utility relief program that provides a percentage discount or assistance for utility bills for income qualified senior households in partnership with the local or state funding programs. So find something that that's already out there that we might be able to participate in. And then maybe establish a dedicated senior service section on the town website, centralizing on resources for our seniors, event listings and contact information for assistance. Just someplace that is unique to them that, and seniors, okay, it's 55 and above is what they call for the, so I am not even going to call them senior, age restricted, whatever that is, but maybe explore something like that. If it's doable, then it's doable. If it's not, then it's not. But I've heard this for many, many years, and I thought maybe we could see what this council wanted to do with that.
Yeah, I very much am in support of exploring that at the risk of irritating the treasurer. I know that, this is a thing that has come up in conversations I've had with people as well. People on fixed income. We talk about affordable housing for young people a lot in our community, but the other side of the spectrum, it's folks on fixed incomes have lived here all their lives, and then with the infrastructure costs being what they are, and they are driven by a lot of factors that we don't have as good a control as we'd like over externally. We should evaluate, I think, the cost of offering some relief to certain age groups. I think the way you described it was perfect, and I would really like to look into that.
Yep. Yes, I would like to say that I'm very much in support of that idea. That's one of my priorities. As a matter of fact, it goes right along with one of the ones I listed under community engagement. And I do think it's very important. I do think it's worth it, because I do think, especially when you're talking about mobility, when you're talking about accessibility, there are ancillary costs to that are seniors or age restricted personnel have to pay that don't show up on a tax sheet, but it impacts their overall quality and standard of living. And that is one of the things that I always hear, is the standard of living in the town is too high. But something as simple as that, I think, could be beneficial, and every little thing helps. So I'm very much in support of that.
Mr. Stevens, does that, obviously that is going to be something that's operations on that, but I think it does maybe in the future having to see if it's even feasible. I think that's where we need to go with that, how we can make it, if it is the will of the council. Okay. The MOU County water purchase. Well, we have talked this one to death, I think, but that is a very important item. Go ahead. And I have it on mine too.
Okay. So the reason I put that on there is because there are several things that tie into this, and it goes back to what you were just talking about, was that this could possibly impact the standard of living of the residents. At this point, we don't know. When I say we, I'm talking about mainly the new councilman. I know you know, because you've been here. We don't know, are there any impacting costs? We don't know how this is going to directly or indirectly impact anything from, say, budgets and public works, taxes, any of those things we are unaware of at this moment. But there's a bigger problem, which is I have not heard yet, and this is one of the reasons I was bringing it up, do we even need this? My understanding is we have enough water for the town as it is. And so the reason I'm bringing this up is that I would like to divert some attention to things such as a water conservation plan. I would like to divert attention to preventive maintenance, upgrades, and trying to bend costs in the future. And that's what I was talking about earlier, going 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years out through efficiencies, through upgrades. Those are things that I think is the reason I'm bringing this up. Also, in that same vein, and I didn't see it on the list, but it falls under this. This is also one of the reasons why I want somebody with an actuarial finance background, because that particular skill not only deals with investments, what would help us with our reserve fund, it deals with insurance, and this is filled with, either directly or indirectly with liabilities. And so one of my priorities is to pause that negotiation and say, look, what do we actually have? if we have the water we need, would it make more sense? And I'm not saying permanently end negotiations. That's not what I'm saying. But should we be making a priority to focus on water conservation, focus on upgrading our pipes, our sewer, raising the rate if we have to that amount that will stop impacting residents where every year we're raising rate after rate after rate after rate in every budget. And so the goal is, and to me, is to have a temporary pause on that. And for the town manager, since he's new, and since we don't have, which I just found out today, no projected end date to the current negotiations that's going on, just take a pause, whether it's 60 or 90 days, and let the town manager come back and say, okay, at this point, this is what I can tell you about our water conservation plan. This is what I can tell you about how we can do upgrades, preventive maintenance, or whatever. And then we can make a more informed discussion. And I don't see, if nothing has been resolved yet, based on the amount of time we've been negotiating, I can't see and can't rationalize, and I can't explain to the residents why a pause of 30, 60, 90 days would make any difference. So that was my rationale behind that.
And, and you all have not been privy to a lot of the information, and I have been because I sat in that seat for a little bit, but they are, the water purchase agreement is for down the road. It's not, it is planning for the future. We will probably need to purchase water, they're estimating, in about 7 years. We need this to show MDE, we're making good faith in that, to work with the county, but 5 to 7 years is the projection to have this agreement. Remember, they don't have their pipes in yet coming from Brandywine down to us. So we don't turn we do a water purchase agreement tomorrow. It is not going to impact the town because the pipes aren't even in yet. It is planning for the future with that. But I love your idea of water conservation plans. What are we doing with that? And I saw on July 12th that the county is doing a water conservation with the barrels. And that's something that we should push out too, because we're county residents as well as Plata residents. But I do disagree with putting a pause on the negotiations. They're ongoing. It's staff that's doing the ongoing negotiations. And I don't think that we pull back from that. We'll take a pause for 30 days because the county is not working for 30 days in August. So there will be a pause on there. And we have one meeting in July. So that has been a high priority of mine as well, is to finish making some type of purchase agreement, MOU. So I understand that.
Yeah, sure. So on this issue, it's not on the sort of consolidated list, but it is in this list, the adequate public facilities ordinance, and where that overlaps with this discussion we're having about this is that I think the assertions that you made may be true, but I think the thing that some of us are struggling with when we're communicating with residents or we're trying to rationalize things ourselves is that there is a level of opaqueness to the details that allow you to be able to say it's probably 5 or 7 years away. And so what I think people are asking based on media on water in the region, that there's been articles in the Washington Post. There's been a lot of discussion at the county level when individual members of the commission are out talking to the public and they make assertions about things, and then people ask us, well, I heard we're about to run out of water, or I heard that, La Plata is under some, restriction by the county because of X, Y, or Z. And it is very difficult for us to figure out how to navigate those questions. And that to me, that is what's at the core of this issue, is bringing it out into the light a little more. And one of the reasons why the adequate public facilities ordinance is so important to me is that my hope is that through the documentation of how we evaluate things like water and sewer capacity in particular, that mechanism, that tool will allow us to communicate the standards by which we are measuring our own usage of water. And I agree with you. There's different ways you can look at this, and you could go, well, the reality may be that we don't need a water purchase agreement for 5 years. But there's other scenarios I can imagine based on other assumptions I could make without the actual details, where I go, no, that is coming much closer, and that makes me worry about costs. And I think that's really what we're struggling with around this particular priority.
I think it's be so that we are informed, that we can, when someone says something, we can say, well, no, that's not true, or that is true, or this is what we're working on. And we need to bring everyone up to speed on that.
Mayor James, if I may.
Sure.
Yes, thanks for all three inputs, 'cause I think it's important. I think we got more details tonight than we got before on this negotiations. But Mr. Stevens, I think you understand the sense of urgency and the feelings of majority of the council is. While we're 6 weeks in, we don't have all the details. I think the details are important. But more so to Councilman Sampson point of view, I would assume this negotiation MOU will come before the council for consideration, and it would limit our hesitation of voting yes for that if we know all the details, and maybe not all the details. You get what I'm saying? At least understand what we're even negotiating and what is the end result of what we really need. But I mean, appreciate the mayor's input, because she has been at the helm of it for however long, and 5 to 7 years. But obviously, to Councilman Gutenberg's spot, it's like there's two different arguments: the 5 to 7 years and summer of 2026. So I think the details are critical, important. And
Mayor, if I may, so just as a global statement, I think it'll be my intent as your town manager to make sure that you're informed, to provide you the level of detail that you desire, and each one of you is going to have a different threshold for that. That's why I'm having one-on-ones with you this week, is to learn how best to communicate to you. But to your question directly, absolutely. If it's an MOU or if it's an IGA, the elected body is the decision maker. So you will have a staff presentation about the document, whatever it is. Probably by me. In all likelihood, the town attorney may be present, because you will be being asked to sign a legal document. So you'll have it in your packet in advance. We will have had conversations about it well in advance of the meeting where you take formal action on it. So it would never be my intent to bring something in front of this council where you're caught flat-footed or you're unprepared. I mean, that's not how we do business in local government. That's not how I do business. It's not how I intend to do business here. So short answer to your question is absolutely yes, you're going to be fully informed before, and this council will be the one that signs any documents. And further, the council should provide staff with negotiating direction. That's what I'm accustomed to. So anytime staff is going to go into a negotiation on a topic, what I envision is coming to the council and saying, okay, we need to negotiate this with this entity. My assumption is that you want your professional staff to do those negotiations, to work out the details, and then come back to you with terms. So what I historically have done is asked my board, my elected body, for negotiating parameters. So, for example, a recent real estate transaction that I had, we bought a gravel pit. I asked for negotiated authority to purchase the gravel pit up to a threshold, so I had a window. So I could go and do a month's worth of negotiation and deal making. And then I came back to my elected body and said, okay, we've struck the deal within the parameters that you've already given to me. So that would be how I envision negotiations playing out. And I hope that allies concerns.
And that is how it has been done. With the previous council, with land acquisition, with negotiating, with other legal things, but definitely. So I'm glad to hear that that's the way that you operate as well. Councilman Johnson, did you have another thing?
no, thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Councilman McCormick?
Yes, Mr. Stevens, Ms. Minor, you might be better equipped to answer this. Do I have it correct that our town attorney right now is the lead negotiator for the MOU?
It's because it's attorney to attorney.
Yes, so the town attorney is currently our lead negotiator for the MOU. Councilman Sampson, Councilman Johnson, Councilman Gutenberg all brought up similar concerns that I have, which is information the last 39 days, if we've been in office for 40, just to call it 40 days, has been pretty disappointing on my end, right? And you just heard it from three other folks as well. Mr. Stevens, you're speaking my language. I appreciate that we're going to get information, that we're never going to be caught flat-footed, but I got to be honest, up until today's email that Councilman Sampson got from the staff, I feel we have been caught flat-footed here. I think it is absolutely appropriate with the information that we've gotten in our first 5 weeks here in office to move the lead negotiator that has currently been doing it off, give you that ability to do this, and then to come forward with the council based off of the left and right limit that we provide to you, what we want to do with the MOU. So Councilman Sampson brings up an interesting point, a potential 30, 60, 90-day pause. But I would state that's just barely touching on the issue here. I think the town, based off the information that's been provided to me, has been using personalities instead of the process to figure out the MOU. I think we have enough information to act on this tonight. So I would ask the council to at least talk about potentially moving the lead negotiator that we currently have off and potentially putting Mr. Stevens in that position.
Councilman McCormick, I think that's out of line. You have not been privy to all the information.
Yeah, it's
When
kind
you're
of part of
going-
the point,
I'm
though.
sorry, please do not overspeak me. When it is going attorney to attorney, there is a reason why. I know that as acting town manager, Ms. Minor would do staff to staff. She would not do staff to attorney. There are different rules on that. Without having the full picture, I think it's very irresponsible for you to make a comment or a person to make a comment of pulling a lead negotiator off when you do not know where we stand in the timeline. There are things that are coming down that we have just been informed that we are on the meeting in July 22nd, to discuss the water purchase agreement with the county. That is, we're going in front of the commissioners. So to remove someone based on misinformation or lack of information is very irresponsible and would put us in a bad position the entire, based on personality. Yes. Okay. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Sampson, sorry.
Based on all the comment I heard, I think it supports my position of a pause. Basically what we're hearing is some of us, or says lack of communication. Another says we're going before the commissioners. Nobody here knows, except for maybe you, because in essence, because you've been here, but nobody else knows what they're even going to the commissioners about. That's the whole purpose of us laying out the priorities. And once again, we just received word today that there is no projected end date. So the question becomes, what is the rush? Once again, we don't know what the rush is. And I'm not saying there's not a legitimate reason, but if the answer is by rationale, you don't know and nobody can tell us, then I don't know what we're moving forward on and why would we support that?
Yeah.
It's a rational type thinking. If you don't know and we can't get an answer and there's no projected end date, then what is the rationale to rush? Which is what I can't speak for the council, have been asking all along. What is the need?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I may,
And what is the impact? Or
it's not a rush because it has been 2 years, 3 years going back and forth with this, and the goalposts keep on being moved, not by us, by those that we are entering into the MOU with. And as Mr. Stevens has said, we're not entering into anything unless council wants to enter into it, but we have to have a document to review in order to enter into something. Go ahead.
If I could, I will say I share Councilman Sampson's frustration with the amount of information that we know. I'm sorry. But let me ask this question. I think, is it the intent of the meeting we're having, I think that's now scheduled for July 1st or 2nd, is in that meeting, are we going to be brought up to speed, essentially to where Mayor James is at on this issue, like as a for instance?
I think that's an opportunity for council to ask questions and get additional information. My hope would be is that staff can bring you completely up to speed by the outcome of that meeting. By the time we walk out of that meeting, I would hope that we have you fully up to speed.
Yeah. Okay, so my view is that with that meeting now just essentially 2 weeks away, right? I mean, I would not be eager to, throw sand into the gears here and bring things to a stop, knowing that, better late than never, and not understanding completely the unintended consequences. But I think it is important that and I think it's been expressed here that how important it is to members of the council that we understand what is going on and what we can talk about publicly and how we can communicate, and understand how this affects the strategies and priorities for a lot of things that are on this priority list that are affected by that.
Mayor James, if I may. Yeah, I understand both points, and Councilman Gutenberg, I understand your point. The meeting is 2 weeks out, but there should never be dabbling of information being shared. July 22nd is a new date, and I know we probably don't want to say what that means for on the record, or if it's a public meeting, I'm not sure. But today, to Councilman Sampson's point, is there's no end date. That was told to us from responses today, or no projected end date. Maybe I'm misquoting it. But to your point, Mr. Stevens, you expect the council to be well informed at the end of that meeting. So I am okay with waiting until July 1st to receive more information on making an informed decision. But I think you could tell the vibe of the room is frustrating that we're not getting all the information, or maybe we're not requesting the right information to get, one or the other.
I am not even really involved with it. I've been briefed on it. Let me put it that way. But as far as not having an end date, you can't make somebody sign an MOU. So you're relying on a person or an entity to enact with you for a memorandum of understanding. So how can you say, okay, I'm going to throw out a date, August 1st, you sign it or it dies? You can't do that, in my opinion. It should be, you work it till it's done.
I agree with you, and I think if I heard the stipulations between the town and the county is it's only attorney, right? Stopping it would not give Mr. Stevens any. Well, I guess the point is for you to. I don't know, but I guess I'm okay with July 1st, waiting to get fully updated before we make a decision. Or before I make a decision, excuse me.
Yes. Yeah, so maybe I didn't explain my frustration correctly. We have an individual right now representing the town, another individual representing the county for this memorandum of understanding for a county water purchase agreement. We have an individual representing the town that, unless I missed a vote, I don't remember giving a left and right limit to. So what I'm stating is I'm very frustrated that I do not have information provided for where we're at with the negotiation today on 6/17. I'm frustrated that we're waiting until July 1st for it. I'm frustrated that there is no left and right limit that's been defined to this council. What is La Plata even looking for or asking for in this negotiation? And that is why I do think it's appropriate when you say it's irresponsible for me to bring this up. It is incredibly responsible for me to bring this up. It is irresponsible that the individual leading negotiation has not let the town council, who will make that final vote, to your point, Mr. Stevens, informed on the issue at hand here. That is what I'm bringing up. Mr. Stevens, according to our charter, we could also ask for external legal help and counsel to do this if it has to be attorney to attorney. But there are a lot of levers that this town council can pull, is my point, that we absolutely need to discuss. And if it's more appropriate for July 1st, that's fine. But I think it's important and imperative that the town and that our residents know that this or at least this councilman, has not been informed of the left and right limit for this negotiation and what has happened in the past with it.
And understood. And as you said, to your point, We have been in office for 39 days, and this was the prior council that has executed this and carried over. There's a lot of things in 39 days that you have not been informed about because it's been 39 days and it's only been 4 meetings. So that's one of those things. This is why we're having this meeting, to find out more information on that. And your questions have been answered. If you've had questions, I know that Ms. Minor has made sure that they have been answered. So we keep on going that way.
So, Madam Mayor, point of order, if I may. It's standard to wait 39 days to get this information. We've asked for it within that 39-day window. What I mean by that is I've at least seen every council member via email at some point ask our assistant town manager, our current town manager, or the attorney for this info, and we haven't been provided it until today, this morning, and that's just a sliver of the info. The standard is 39 days in. Former council gave the directive, don't worry about it, wait till July 1st.
No, and please do not
That's why I'm asking.
words in my mouth on that. You were informed, you received that information today. There's only so much information when you are in negotiations, and it's attorney to attorney, client to client privilege, attorney to client privilege. That is not for the consumption of us yet. That's why the previous council had given the attorney the authorization to, as Mr. Stevens said, they authorize it. Prior council has given the attorney authorization to enter into not even negotiations, discussions, because it's not negotiations until we get to the MOU that is brought to us. We're the ones that would negotiate it and redline what we don't like. So yeah, there's a lot. And I know that this council is very hungry and very anxious to get things going. And I love, love, love the energy, but can't do everything in a day. Right. So that's where that is. Was given prior council. Yes.
Just a quick 2 questions, not to belabor the
No,
point, but just,
okay.
can we, I know we can't, and this is not the appropriate forum, so I know that, to talk about the negotiations. But can you or somebody tell us why they're even meeting? I mean, I'm not trying to be funny. I mean, what are they even meeting about? In a general sense. I mean, I know we
So-
can't. I mean, they're not gonna come up with a sheet or a proposal, are they?
So basically, what the town is entering into agreement with is to use the pipes to get water from WSSC. So how is that going to be executed? Because we have no more allocation in the one aquifer that we can pull from, which is the lower Patapsco. So now that we have reached, there's water in there. And people are not going to turn on their faucets tomorrow and not have water.
So I
Yeah.
think I asked the question the wrong way. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go re-ask.
Is the meeting, I'm trying to think of the appropriate way to ask it. Is it more of an operational meeting, or are we actually, in this case, the town attorney, trying to come out with a product for us to review? That's what I'm asking. If it's an operation, like these are the ditches, these are the pipes, this is the allocation, this is the credits for the allocation, we're gonna do a shared credit. I say, okay, but that's what I'm trying to figure out.
If I can, Mayor,
Please.
Counselor Sampson, it's day 2 for me.
Mhm. I
But
got
it is my understanding. And first I need to clarify, when you say the meeting, are you referring to the meeting that the mayor just mentioned with Charles County?
Yes, she
Okay.
met it. The comment was the meeting with the commissioners.
Correct.
And my response was, I don't even know what the meeting with the I didn't know there was a meeting with the commissioners.
So it's my understanding that I think the desired outcome of that meeting from the town of La Plata's perspective is to achieve a consensus from the county commissioners to enter into negotiations. So I would say, from what I understand, I think even saying that we're negotiating with Charles County may be a little bit premature, because again, this is my understanding, trying to get myself up to speed, is I don't know that there's been the political will so far to enter into negotiations. And I understand the meeting on the 22nd is for the town of La Plata to meet with Charles County Commissioners and ask them to direct staff to negotiate an MOU for water allocation in the future. that's what I believe the meeting is
You
about.
said
and-
it very well.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question? Thank you, and thank you for the question. All right, moving on to something that we're all passionate about, community engagement strategy. I don't know what that looks like, and we've tried, but go ahead, Councilman Sampson, what is your vision on that?
Okay, so I know I'm one of the people that listed community engagement.
Right.
And my from the angle I'm coming from is twofold, and it folds back over into the things we talked about with tourism, with the seniors, and that is and I mentioned this, but I never mentioned the name of these organizations because I don't want them to be affiliated with me if I say something by mistake or something that could be perceived negative. But I'm very active in a lot of charitable organizations. And one thing that I notice is that the town does not, from my perspective, promote a lot of these charitable things. And for example, I have personally witnessed numerous times, when I say numerous, I'm talking about over 50, where our town residents were giving things for heating bill subsidies. Groceries were paid for, clothing. I've actually participated in these events. I've talked to some of our faith-based communities in our town, and I know, and I'm talking about our town specifically because I know there's something bigger in Charles County, but there is nothing that they are aware of that shows our resources available to town residents for, to go back, seniors, small business, those in need, those in poverty. And so I wanted the town to promote those resources and look at resources to help those people in need, the most vulnerable, those left behind, and promoting events throughout the town. And if possible, and I know this is all contingent upon what's going on at the time, adding an additional person to the special events coordinator, I think is a title for it, to help in that regard and everything. And so whether that person is helping out with, and I'm just using this as an example, not saying that this is in place now, but helping out with grants, subsidies, community promotions, those things of those nature. So that's the angle I was coming from. It could and that could overlap with tourism and with our seniors to make it more cost relevant and cost efficient. So it's not just targeted to that one thing.
And as you saw with the community engagement, we had 2 events that had very, very, very little participation despite efforts that were on the social media, on the website, a word of mouth. So that is a problem. Which is not unique to our municipality. I hear it all over the place. Some of the things that I had discussed with fellow mayors is having a biannual town hall meeting, whatever you want to call them, you know, that bring them out, just have coffee and conversation. That the interactive surveys, it's a small sampling. I don't know how you get them engaged, but I love the idea of maybe partnering with some of the nonprofits or through we sit with the Chamber of Commerce. So we're there interacting with the Chamber of Commerce. How do we get more people engaged? And that is the age-old question. I don't know what the answer is to that. I have not seen an uptick in 8 years. They only come out if they're really angry. Most of the time, they come out in force, but Councilman Johnson.
Yes, Mayor James, thanks. I think this does remain high on the priority, and there's many examples we can go to. One of those being our general election turnout, and how do we get, I think the question how is very ambiguous, because we don't know, but we should focus on meeting the residents where they are. And I guess we got to figure out what that is too, right? Like the farmer's market on a Saturday is the place to go, right? The concerts on a Friday night is the place to go. Town hall council meetings, it ain't the place to go. So, yes, and thank you. Yes,
No
thank you.
offense to our guests.
Yeah, no offense to our guests. But I do believe this remain high on the priority for many reasons, and we could touch on every component of the local government spectrum. But
You mentioned some really great areas like the farmer's market and the concerts. Maybe it is when we have our retreat, we talk about 30 minutes prior having, award two, having a meeting, award, whatever.
Sure.
But you're right, meet them where they are. And that is a good way to think about that. So that's, I don't know how we move forward with that, except I think that's a really good conversation to have at the retreat. And that may be focusing, one of our priorities of that.
Can I ask one more question on that? So, to you, Councilman Sampson, when you were describing what you were describing about, because it wasn't really about individual engagement, it was about engagement with like organizations that leverage their resources to help individuals, right? And so I'm wondering, like, when you were describing what you were describing, I was reminded of a county meeting I went to when they were gearing up to offer assistance to like federal workers that were dealing with like layoffs and stuff early on in about 6 months ago. So the thing that they were talking about there was that they had partner organizations that were there. They weren't funded by the county, but the county partners with them, and the county also has money and some things, but but it was sort of like a package presentation that they were engaging with people of need to kind of get people together. So I guess what my point is in what you would envision for the town, are we filling a gap that isn't already filled by the county, or like, just help me better understand when you talk about that, what do you think we should do?
Okay, so what you're talking about is exactly what I'm talking about. And I'll give you two quick, simple examples. So in my ward, and I won't, like I said, I won't mention the name of it, but we have a faith-based organization, a church, that does a lot of community work. Okay. And when I say community work, I'm talking about everything from paying rent for people, getting homeless people housing, working with kids that are housing insecure. I mean, you can see them being picked up here at the hotel across the street. And one of the things they were looking at is they are doing something, and this goes back to the point you were making. Say another organization across town is doing something, a third organization is doing something, but there's no unified, consolidated information or promotion of where in just the town these people can go.
Mm.
So in that sense, yes. So basically, if you had a centralized, say, repository that was promoted, so whether you were in, say, your ward, my ward, their ward, or anywhere in the town, they could say, these are the resources that are available to you, whether it's a town resource, whether it's a charitable resource, or whatever. And so the other example I will give you, so it's more stark or clear, and this I will mention because it's outside of the town, so I don't have an impact. So for example, I was meeting with the county, this is a while ago, in the Salvation Army, because we're real big on trying to help the homeless and feed people. So the county came and met with us at the Salvation Army, and we looked at and leveraged our resources along with the county resources. And we met with all of the other social, charitable, religious organizations in the area to overlap and interlock our abilities and resources. So for example, if you come to our food pantry and just say for some reason our food pantry was empty, we could say, look, this is where you can go. This is how we can get transportation over there. These people will help you. We'll even call in advance to make sure that they're not out. But the thing I heard when I was out and about town, in our town, there's no repository like that. There's no central place. So most people in our town, just through lack of knowledge, everything is the county, the county, the county, the county, and yet the county seat is here. And I would think here is where we should have some of those resources, or at least promote. So when I'm talking about promoting the resources, I'm not talking about spending a whole lot of extra money, but there's people already doing this. So I hope that clarifies what I was
Yeah,
talking about.
it's helpful. Thank you.
And that sounds a little bit about what we talked about with seniors, and putting those together is having a place, having a tab on our website that they can go to, which I suspect the county probably has for the county.
Mhm.
I wonder if they drill down or they can give us the information or share somehow the resources, because I bet you they have probably done all of the legwork and can put in, the 20646 and give us that is worth exploring for sure, is to have something like that. I was looking at community engagement more of getting people out and about and on that, but there's two ways to look at that. So excellent. Thank you. Any, yes. Oh, absolutely.
We have done this in the past
Mhm.
and we're very good at it. And we probably should talk about doing it more often. The Phoenix Run Block Party.
Mhm.
We bring all the resources to that neighborhood.
Mm.
The health department, the churches, the faith-based, the lifestyles. Yes. In that area.
Yep.
Get the children involved, have activities for them. So we know how to do it.
Just got to execute it.
And we've done that for 9 years. 9 years?
Longer than that.
Yeah. So that is, so great ideas. Now we just have to capture it so it's not just a one day in August
Mm.
kind of thing. LEOPS study evaluation. I believe all 5 of us said approved that, so that should be moving forward. Is there any further discussion that needs to be done on that? Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to reiterate a point that I made before, which is, and it's a priority of mine underneath of this, but it's also a priority of mine underneath of the going back to the water and sewer, which is I really believe we need that skill set for the actuarial finance person, because if we just bring LEOPS on without someone having that skill set, what I'm concerned about is that we have nobody to accurately forecast out, do the econometrics to figure out how much, as far as contributions and all that stuff, we need to keep it relevant going forward 3, 5, 7 years as costs explode, because they will explode. And so that is a skill set that I think to make sure LEOPS can be funded properly and last a long time. And I think benefits some of these other items, which would also help just regular town employees. That skill set would help with their retirements and all that. I think that's a skill set that we need. And I think that's critical for the success of LEOPS. So I just wanted to reiterate that again.
All right. Rules of procedure review.
Please.
Oh, go ahead.
Yes. So Mr. Stevens, one of the concerns I have with this is that LEOPS is going to, based off of their informational page in conversations that were had before taking this position, the information is going to come down in almost 3 different parts to the town. So the way it's going to come down, the way I understand it, is first they're going to give, after the $7,350 goes through or whatever, they're going to give just, hey, with 28 to 32 police officers, all assuming average, statistics, this is what it would cost your town. That's just the first number. That's not the actual number. Because what they're going to do after that is they're going to do an actual census of our police force and assign credits and debits based off of time and service, trainings they've received, etc. The third thing that's going to happen after that number is presented to us is they're going to look at the current buy-in that we have with the pension program that's currently given to the police force and figure out what offset costs can come from there. And the final number will be, okay, this is the upfront cost to get our police force onto LEOPS. And then this is the cost to, for lack of a better term, I guess, continue to stay on LEOPS for the future. I want to make sure that it's clear that just because the first number comes out does not mean that is the actual cost for LEOPS. Same when the second number comes out, got to wait till that third number. The other thing that's important here is the window for LEOPS opens July 1st. That is the window that's going to give us the opportunity to debate this for the FY27 budget. If we wait for that January 1st window, we will miss the opportunity to debate this for FY27, which was the intent of this study. So I just want to make sure those two things are very, very clear to you, Mr. Stevens, so that you can let the town staff know and our residents know we are not going to actually have a number on this probably till mid-November. And we are going to debate this on the FY27 budget. This does not commit us to LEOPS. This commits us to finding out the information, to Councilman Sampson's point. Is this something we can do?
adopted 2507, right? And
I don't think.
I know that there has been some discussion about going through and looking at the rules of procedure review. So that's an easy work session that can be put on for the future.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and I don't know what would be helpful if I don't know if you want, I don't know how this will play out, and I'll defer to you or the council. But I would imagine we will all sit in our thought process in advance. Will we anticipate this item being on the agenda item so it can be a healthy dialogue? But I also don't think it'll hurt to go section by section either. But I don't know what the intent of how we wanted to play this out, but it's definitely top of mind.
I would think that it would have to be very transparent to our residents, and I would think exactly what you said, section by section, but be prepared, and not just looking at it the first time or whatever, saying, okay, we're going.
For sure.
Yeah.
Do we have sorry, Mayor James, do we have a time frame we want to accomplish this? Are we doing 30 days, 45 days, or what is? It's high on the priority, and I can agree with that.
I think that we look at that, and when we're doing the agenda, the next agendas, we look at what we're putting in based on the information that you're getting tonight for the next, because we have a July 29th meeting, and then we start back up.
Sure. I personally, I would like no later than October.
I would think that it would be done by then. I would think that would be a good timeframe on that. Any other comments on that?
Yes.
Go ahead, Councilman McCormick.
Yeah, if I may, Ms. Minor, you mentioned at the start, we talked through two things with Mr. Stevens. One was the LEOP study evaluation, two was rules of procedure, that these are relatively easy things to get on the agenda. So to Councilman Johnson's point again, no risk, right, to getting this conversation completed. I would argue probably the first or second week of August at the latest, right? This is a council-based discussion. We'll have almost 30 days to come up with our thoughts, make sure we present them. So to Mayor James's point, we're not going through it for the first time that day, but this is a relatively easy thing to get on the agenda, correct?
Don't know of any pending items for future agendas right now.
Yeah.
So if we're doing the T, I'd make the suggestion, could we target, and I don't know what day of the week August 15th is, but before August, whatever that meeting is before August 15th. I would put that as the T.
I'm
Yeah, we
okay
can
with
target that.
whatever.
Yeah.
All right, council, we've been at this for a couple hours. And we've hit our high ones. Do we want to keep going with our mediums, or is that something that we've taken a big chunk out of this one, and we've kind of given our new town manager direction on that? And do we wait for like community survey? We kind of talked about goal settings and things like that. Do we wait until we have our retreat?
May I make a suggestion, Madam Mayor?
Sure.
Can we all just pick one off the list that we haven't discussed that gives us 5 last items? Something that's a priority to all of us. We have that open discussion and we move on to the next item on the agenda. Would that be okay for the council?
I'm interested in that actually.
Yeah.
Right. Let me see. You know, you know what? I'll pick the election code updates. Right. Does not need to be done in the near term, but definitely, you know, something that I would like to look at seriously for the town is, and I think I've talked about this with individuals, but I'll just say it real quick here. You know, voter turnout, we talked about that with resident engagement, right? And we are a bedroom community, and we are a town of commuters, and we do elections on a weekday, right? And so like a thing I think we should look at, and I would do this with a committee, right? Like you do it in a format where we get residents to anyone who's interested want to come and talk to us. But I think we really should explore, you know, Saturday voting. Saturday voting is a thing that's done in a number of municipalities in Maryland, and maybe see what that does for us. There's a few other things too related to the way we run our elections that I would like to fix. that would be enduring, that we can put in code, extend anything that would extend the hours, I think is goodness. I also would like to see us put some things in code for the Board of Elections that gives them a budget a year ahead of time, that and sort of some set of procedures for the way we advertise. That is a very common complaint we got during the election, was that just wasn't enough, awareness for whatever reason, right? And then so we can talk about what those reasons may or may not be, but that is a common theme that we heard, from folks. So those are things I'd just like to try and address with that.
Good suggestion. Councilman McCormick?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councilman Gutenberg, for that. That's very, very important. I share your sentiment. All right. One of them that I wrote was the town code. When we're talking about that specifically, the adequate public facilities ordinance. So watching through the last planning commission meeting, a couple of things came up that I think need to be brought to your attention, Mr. Stevens. So first is, it was stated in that meeting that the person that's currently leading the APFO development is the town attorney. I am not confident that that's the right individual to have doing that. I think the planning commission needs to take a lot of ownership there. I was glad to hear that the three members that were speaking, the three voting members, definitely put that as something as their top priority, that they want to do working sessions through the planning commission. It's something that obviously I think is very appropriate and very important for this town. And it gives us a lot of leverage to protect this town from potential developments, et cetera, moving forward, water, all the issues that we kind of have talked about here in the high priority list. So again, I just want to make sure that we are definitely addressing that the APFO is an update to the town code and that we're going through the proper channels to do it. So one of my very, very high priority items that I assume, based off of what the planning commission was kind of talking about, probably high on their list as well.
Another one that's high for me is review of town property holdings. That's important because it touches my priority of everything from the water impact, stormwater, small businesses, the tax base, revenue, all that stuff. So, and I'm not sure, and I'm only speaking for myself, and it may not apply to anybody else. I'm not sure exactly that, well, I will say I don't know exactly what town holdings we have. And I'm also including that any properties that are vacant, recently abandoned, unused land, refuse land. So I'm not sure about that. And once again, and like I said, I may be way off base because I don't know, and somebody may know, but I'm not sure that we're actually collecting all the revenue we're supposed to, nor are we using our resources, in this case, water, sewer, stormwater, that type of thing, efficiently, because we don't know exactly what we have, and nobody's done a lay down to see those things. So
That's going to fall under the land use study too. I think that's part of it, which I know that Director Dooley is very excited about to get that done. So that might answer yours, but I agree with you. I don't know what we know.
If I could just sort of like add a little bit of color to this as well. So for me, I think there are elements of, or not elements, there are pieces of property that the town specifically owns that I'm unable to trace to a plan that says this was bought. I can see when it was bought. I can look that up online. I can see it was bought in 2006. I see nothing that tells me how the plan or how the town plans to use that. And the fact that those assets, their town assets, are being held without a clear plan for how they're being used, we should determine what the plan is for them, is my point. Yeah. Oh. So I'll give you a specific example. There's 3 houses across the street. Are those in that? Okay. Okay, so that includes all town holdings. That study will get at that. Okay, all right, that's good to know. Thank you.
Councilman Johnson.
Yes, Mayor James, thank you. My specific things that are like high priority for me are the charter amendments, and why I think the charter is a larger question, and we could probably discuss, if there needs to be a charter committee. There's some things, and I can tell you right now, my charter things don't need to be part of the retreat. I think they're agenda items or a resolution to amend the agenda. But I would like, or what I will do throughout my term is lead through transparency and make sure we follow processes that are conductive to doing business. And I think some of the simple things that could just be done right away do the process, of course. Resolution, public hearing is, specific language around mayor and council salaries, and how do we make sure it's very clear on this is the intent of the charter and we're following the intent of the charter. I know there's been conversations about the broader the charter's outdated per se. So maybe a committee down the road about doing some suggestions to the council on possibly getting that to a public hearing and amending it through the process. But some of my things are really just focused on following a process and being transparent when it comes to the charter.
And mine is all about the businesses downtown, the downtown partnerships, the Main Street Maryland, the downtown revitalization programs. Is let's get our community engaged again and take care of our businesses as well. So I would like to see, we are Main Street Maryland. We have been for 5 years or 6. We are an affiliate. They've just changed their tier on that. But talking about resources, they have resources there. It takes it to a second level too, that I know the previous council was very passionate about having an economic development department here at town, in the town. And it is in our charter on that. And it would be a way to go. We've got, we've got to play the long game on this one, but we've got to take care of our businesses because it's a catch-22. You attract the residents, but what do they have to do? And the businesses don't thrive without residents. So how can we partner those together and make this town thrive and vibrant? So that's what my priorities are. All right, did you get enough for day 2, Mr. Stevens?
I think I have enough, council. This will keep me busy through the end of the week.
Okay, well, good. Well, good. I love
Thursday's
that.
a holiday, so.
So this is going to close our portion of the priorities. We're going to go into legislation, and I would ask if council would be able to just pop up on the dais there so we can officially do some business here. Great conversation, council. Really appreciate that.
Don't forget your mics. Probably important, I would imagine. Very good at gun jobs.
I get the second screen like.
Very convenient.
All right. So this brings us to our legislative portion here. First one is the resolution 25-09 landscaping and trash pickup service agreement renewal.
Okay, and I think this is me now, is that correct?
That's you.
Okay, this is a little different from what I'm used to, so just bear with me for a moment. This is a resolution concerning landscaping services agreement renewal for the purpose of authorizing the town manager to enter into an agreement with Melwood Horticultural Training Center, Inc. for landscaping services and all matters generally relating thereto.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to adopt resolution 25-09 as presented?
Mayor James. I make a motion to adopt resolution 25-09 landscaping agreement renewal as presented.
Thank you, Councilman Jonathan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. I'm going to have the town clerk ask for a roll call. If not, please say nay. Mr. Town Clerk.
Councilman Gutenberg,
Aye.
Councilman McCormick,
Aye.
Councilman Sampson,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor James,
Aye.
Madam Mayor, and the motion passes.
Thank you so much. That brings us to resolution 25-10, wastewater treatment plant vehicle purchase.
This is a resolution concerning wastewater treatment plant vehicle purchase for the purpose of authorizing the town manager to enter into a contract purchase agreement for the purchase of 2 new vehicles and all matters generally relating thereto.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to adopt resolution 25-10 as presented?
Mayor James.
Go ahead.
I make not a resolution. I make a motion to adopt resolution 25-10 wastewater treatment plant vehicle purchase as presented.
Second.
Councilman Gutenberg,
Aye.
Councilman McCormick,
Aye.
Councilman Sampson,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor James.
Aye.
All right, Madam Mayor, the motion passes.
Thank you. That brings us to reports from the mayor and town council. So we're going to go first with Councilman Goodberg.
All right. Thank you. First, back on June 3rd, I attended my first meeting with the Planning Commission. So I'll just give you a quick breakdown of that. We reviewed the Planning Department's annual report for 2024, and we had a discussion about several elements of that report. We specifically had a number of questions about the development capacity analysis, and while it is a required feature of the report, that led to that is not done in this year's report. It led to a discussion that we had about the level of staffing that the town has had in the planning department with several key positions, and this that contributed to our ability to produce that report. And also this year, the state of Maryland, which typically supports towns in their building of those reports, they didn't have a resource either that they could use to support us, and the town staff did reach out to the state for help on that. So that'll be part of a future work plan. So that report is now done. There was some tuning that was done to that, and it will be posted tomorrow on the town's website, and it will be delivered to the state of Maryland on time for its June 1st delivery. So also though, related to that, I did want to bring up that we interviewed a new planning commission member. And so that individual, that candidate was interviewed yesterday by the chair of the planning commission, Ms. Banks, and also by Mr. Don Dooley, who is our planning director, and myself. And we unanimously felt very strongly that this person has the qualifications and the demeanor, the temperament, the kind of experience you would want. A very detail-oriented person, a Navy member. He deals with strategic planning in his job and with compliance and a number of issues with very senior policymakers in the DOD. And he lives right here in La Plata, and he's a fellow member of Ward 1, I'm proud to say. And what I'd like to do now is make a motion for the council to consider, and I guess I should have mentioned his name, Kyle Miller. Is the gentleman that we interviewed. And yeah, I think he's going to be a fine addition to the Planning Commission, and we're very much looking forward to him coming on board. And so I make a motion, Madam Mayor, that the council accept Mr. Kyle Miller as a member of the Planning Commission, a voting member, and that we vote on that now.
Well, thank you very much. I have a motion to accept Kyle Miller as a newest member on the planning commission. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Thank you very much. That's exciting that someone else has volunteered, and I love it. I can just feel the energy coming from there. So it sounds like he will be a great addition to the planning commission. So if you are in favor, I have a motion and it has been properly seconded, please indicate by saying aye. If not, nay. Councilman, I've already elevated you there, Mr. Town Clerk. Mr. Town Clerk, will you please do a roll call?
Councilman Gutenberg.
Aye.
Councilman McCormick.
Aye.
Councilman Sampson.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor James.
Aye.
All right, the motion passes.
Please congratulate him, and we look forward to having him at our next meeting. I look forward to meeting him.
Thank you.
All right, does that conclude your report?
It does. Thank you.
Councilman McCormick?
Yes, Madam Mayor. So 5 very quick things, don't worry. So first, June 6th was D-Day. I know Mr. Stevens being a Marine, because you're always a Marine, you're never a former Marine. A lot of veterans, spouses of veterans, people that are paramilitary up here on the dais, but a lot of veterans in our town. That is an important day, and I'm glad that the town recognized it. I saw Councilman Johnson put out a public message on D-Day as well, so thank you for doing that. That's an important thing for our veterans in our town, never to forget. Second, June 14th was Flag Day and also the Army's birthday. Great to see that the flags were up in the town. So thank you to Public Works, Ms. Minor, Mr. Stevens. I know you weren't officially on, but I'm sure you helped out. Madam Mayor, thank you for making sure that was done in the town. So very important. June 15th was Father's Day. A lot of fathers in this room, but a lot of fathers in La Plata as well. Again, to celebrate with their families is excellent. So want to make sure we take a moment to recognize that from the dais. Fourth, the Friday concert series is still a big hit. I'm glad to hear during the discussion today that we're going to look at ways to leverage that to get potentially council members or the mayor or staff just to give quick updates, at that series, or potentially give quick updates at this series. We haven't decided what our action is, but really glad to see that folks are still coming out for that. And then finally, fifth, but not least, is an official welcome to Mr. Stevens. I know we did it at the start of the meeting, but I want to personally say welcome to La Plata, not La Plata. You'll probably have a lot of debates on that, and internally at your home, you'll say, just make sure out here it's La Plata, and really welcome to our town. We're very excited, or I should say, I'm very excited to have you here. So thank you.
Yes, last week was my first meeting with the Design and Review Board. That went very well. We were able to make a determination on, for lack of a better word, an electronic billboard over in the Shining Willow area. And so that was approved. And we also discussed some processes that need to be relooked in approving it. And everything went well. That's all I have.
Councilman Johnson?
Yes, Mayor James, thank you. The Parks and Rec Commission had 2 interviews on June 4th for 2 vacancies on the commission, and I would like to make a motion recommending their appointment to the commission. So we have the first appointment is Miss Beatrice Johnson. We interviewed her, has huge community ties to La Plata and the county at whole. And then the second applicant was Miss Rashonda Williams, who's very actively involved from Parks and Rec to include our youth here in the town of La Plata. So I like to make a motion to appoint both Miss Beatrice Johnson and Rashonda Williams as commission members to serve in accordance with Town Code Chapter 34 and the Parks and Rec Commission.
Thank you very much. Do I
I second.
keep up that
Academic,
commission a little bit, and we've got a lot of great things coming down the pike for that. So thank you for interviewing them and bringing them forward. I have a motion that has been properly seconded. If you are in favor of Ms. Johnson and Ms. Williams to be on the Parks and Rec, please indicate by saying aye, otherwise nay. Mr. Town Clerk?
Councilman Gutenberg,
Aye.
Councilman McCormick,
Aye.
Councilman Sampson,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor James.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Thank you. Please, I tell them we congratulate them.
Absolutely.
Thank them as well. And it comes to my report. So it is all about the community and our bands. On Friday, we got rained out a little bit, but we still had a lot of fun on Friday. Coming up on this Friday is a new band. We have 2 new bands in the next 2 weeks. One is the Kev Pow Fang Bang Band, and it is rhythm and blues and funk, and it's going to be, I think they're going to get us up dancing again. So that sounds very exciting. And then I'm going to say it's called the Sidleys. The Sidleys are coming on the 27th. They are DC's first family of rock and soul. They're known as Indie Rock Family Band. And so that will be a neat one to have. That's on June 27th. July 4th, we will have our event here from 10 and 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. There is no concert that night because we want you to be able to enjoy going to see fireworks locally. They are having it at the Charles County Fairgrounds, and they usually have it at the Blue Crabs as well. We have kids shows coming up. So if you have children or know of neighbors that you can share this great news with them, we have The Great Zucchini is coming up on June 24th. June 26th is Sparkle and Sass Dance. And then they start at 10 a.m. They usually last about 45 minutes to an hour. The kids are out there playing. The adults have a chance to just let the kids enjoy some really good entertainment. So please make sure that you check our website for that under the kids show schedule. And with that, our next meeting is not until July 29th, but residents, you know how to get a hold of us. Please make sure that if you have any concerns or questions, email us or call us. And I know that I will say that I will be responsive, and I can pretty much speak for all of the council that they will respond to you as well. So with that, unless you have, go ahead.
Madam Mayor, just a reminder, I believe, were you going to make an appointment recommendation for the Ethics Committee?
Oh, of course I was. And could you remind me? Do I have, hang on that one. Thank you. Yes, I was going to make we have someone, oh, it's
Chelsea.
It's Chelsea.
Chelsea Williams.
Chelsea Williams. Thank you. Thank you I did that on purpose, Mr. Stevens, so you would feel like you could stay on that. Chelsea Williams has been an alternate on the Ethics Committee
Okay, all right.
and has looked at her schedule, and she said she is willing to serve as a permanent member. So I would like to make a motion that we accept Miss Williams as a permanent member of the Ethics Committee. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? All right, if you are in favor, please indicate by saying aye. If not, say nay. Mr. Town Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilman Gutenberg,
Aye.
Councilman McCormick,
Aye.
Councilman Sampson,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor James.
I am an aye as well. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Stevens, for saving me on that one. It was a good call. And with that, I move to adjourn at 8:20. Thank you all for coming.